All right. So thank you all again for joining us in this part two self-love series. I'm Dana Donofree. I'm the founder and CEO of AnaOno. I'm also a 15-year breast cancer survivor and thriver. I love putting these sessions together as a community member, but also through the lens of AnaOno, just because something I have struggled with for 15 years is uh, relearning my body, loving my body, getting through all of the changes and therapies and treatments and all of these things. And I'm just so honored to have our guest speaker with us, who's really hosting this three-part session. Dr. Sadia has incredible background and commitment to helping improve and impact our lives and how we feel about each other. And would love for you to just provide a quick introduction so everybody knows who you are if they weren't here as a part one. And then we'll dive into our session.
Perfect. I had to unmute myself. It's the Zoom thing. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much, Dana, for inviting me into this community, for, your courage and curiosity. It's such a powerful and beautiful thing when we make a choice to honor our bodies. And so my background, I also was challenged in a different way, but had been told I had 2 weeks to live a long time ago and had to make a decision. And clearly, my decision, since that was a long time ago. And not just live, I wanted to thrive. So my body of work is really based, it's personally informed from my own body and then really informed from the thousands and thousands of women all over the world that I've had the privilege to take through an experience of refamiliarizing themselves with their body, having a reclamation journey of the body, no matter where they're coming from, what the circumstance, what the age is. And it's so powerfully beautiful to see women step into what I also call body sovereignty or even sexual sovereignty. And for today, we are in part two, but I do want to do a little reminder, Dana, of something from part one if someone's brand new and didn't watch part one.
Yeah, I think that that's great. And as we jump into the recap of part one, please, if you feel comfortable, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you are in your breast cancer experience and where you're tuning in from. I just think it brings us all together as a community to understand that we might all be at different phases and stages of where we're at in our cancer experience. And again, the chat will not be shared, but would love to kind of hear from you all. And please feel free to ask questions and chime in along the way. But yeah, let's kick off with that recap of part one because I really
Absolutely.
left there. It was such a magical experience with such simple uh, insights that you were able to provide us and just how really our connection to our spirit and our mind and our body really is so interlinked. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would love that recap.
Perfect. Well, was it Einstein that said that if we can't explain something simply, we don't understand it? So simple is really important. So why I'm saying that now is if there is something you don't understand in the conversation today, please ask in the chat. I'm here for you. I can slow things down. I can get more in depth in a particular area. Really, this is your time session for you. So in the first one, we called it discovering home base. What was home base? It's this sense of ourself, like where in ourself is there an oasis, a place that we can feel comfortable being in and what I like to call marinating in so that we are self-resourced to deal with whatever it is that's in our lives, whether it's good or not so good. And then we focused on self-regulation. So one of them I want to do right now, which is the hug and the hum. So the way we did that is we put one hand in one armpit and the other one across, and we gave ourselves big hugs. And as you do that, I want you to squeeze that arm with the available hand and really hug yourself and look around the room and then start taking some nice full breaths if you can. Just kind of squeeze and breathe. And then the last part of that practice was adding a little hum, like when you're like, this ice cream is yummy, or something like that. So that little feeling vibrating the throat. And what that does, it tells the body that the body is safe, that you're safe. And then what that does when we feel safe and we get that oxytocin going is we actually open ourselves up to start rewriting our story more effectively. So that was kind of a little recap of that practice from the first session. And today, what I wanted to focus on in this second session is really a case for pleasure. And I know that the word pleasure can be a trigger word, so we're going to look at that more closely. But if at any time in this discussion you start to feel a little like, ooh, this is a lot, hug yourself, look around the room, and let your body know we're safe, it's okay, take some deep breaths and really understand that whatever is coming in that isn't for you, you can just ignore it, let it go to the side. And then the pieces that really resonate, you can keep for yourself. Okay.
This is beautiful. And if you could remind us all, we are going to put a link in the chat. You gave us a workbook.
Yes.
I feel was so great on our last session was being able to have like a tool that we were able to use too. So we're going to drop the link to that workbook in
Perfect.
the chat. If you did not get it beforehand, it's not required. It's just another helpful tool. And
Yeah.
let's kick off.
Yeah. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we have a few people from New York, it looks like. Is MN, where's MN? Is that Maine?
Maybe we're going to go Minnesota on that one, I think.
Minnesota? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then Virginia,
From
Las
London.
Vegas, from London,
Thank you.
Wyoming, Wisconsin. So we have a lot of people from all over the place. I
And from
was,
newly diagnosed to a few years out even. So this is really
yeah,
great. I think this is continuous work. At 15 years, I'm still working on this.
yeah.
So great to have you all here with us.
Yes, thank you so much for joining and sharing. So the workbook is more just to facilitate the learning process. Some of us are visual learners. If you don't feel like participating and writing at that point, then no worries. But if you do, then definitely join in. So you said the link in the chat, is that correct? The link is in the chat for the
The
workbook.
link is in the chat.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the first question is what's going to set up this conversation around pleasure. And so I want to look at what are the words, or maybe it's just one word, that can support you to lean in toward the direction of pleasure. And the reason I'm setting this up this way is pleasure plays a really crucial role when your body is in a state of ease, when your body, so ease could be a word. Instead of using pleasure, you could use ease, or a state of joy, or a state just simply of openness. Any word that allows that feeling in your being of being a little bit more curious, a little more receptive, that's leaning in toward pleasure. And the reason we want to do that is every system in your body works more optimally, works better when you can step into that felt state of ease or openness, curiosity, joy. And the reason for that is the when we move into what's called social engagement or parasympathetic or just rest and relax and digest state, is that's where all the healing and the growth and the connection happens. It doesn't happen when we're in that stress and go mode. So we want to learn how to, so the first part of the series was really how to move ourselves into this socially engaged front body aspect of our physical form so that we can be more receptive, so that we can be more resourced and actually support the body to do what the body knows to do, which is to heal itself, because the body really wants to thrive. The body wants to be intensely alive. And whenever we have any kind of imbalance, but especially one like cancer or another type of diagnosis that is challenging us at this time, then the ability to work with our body and not feel like we're working against or fighting our body is going to be crucial to really supporting the healing. And then once maybe you've moved through the experience, some of you have moved through the experience, but there's still a lot of post-cancer recovery. So again, being able to access joy, ease, openness, curiosity will continue for your whole life to support your immune system, function so much better, your nervous system, your digestive system, your hormonal system. For a lot of you who've had to take any kind of substance that altered your hormones, which is pretty common with this process, then you definitely want to understand how to support your hormonal system and also your own mental health. So all of those work so much better. They move into uh, their optimal state when we're running the felt state of openness, curiosity, joy, or even the word pleasure. Okay, so when uh, I say the word pleasure, I'm not just alluding to sexual pleasure because I know that for a lot of people, that connection can get made very quickly. I'm also just stating any form of delight, that which delights you. So it could just be the recollection of a beautiful smile of someone you care about. It could be the taste or smell of your favorite beverage. It could be looking at a beautiful sunset. It could be anything that your senses are picking up as something yummy, delicious, etc. So I'm going to check here in the chat to see if any of you would love to share a word that feels appropriate for you as a way to lean in into the direction of pleasure. I would love to see those words. We're not going to say your names, but if you want to contribute your words, Dana, I'd be really curious what word came up for you.
Well, I'm so glad you ended with we don't need pleasure to necessarily mean something sexual.
Yeah.
And I appreciated hearing that from you because when you first asked the question, I thought to myself, I don't know how I do this.
Yes.
Because, you know, to me, the word pleasure very much is connected to something more sexual and intimate than maybe, you know, having a word like what brings me delight or what brings me joy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's also interesting that these are, and you gave us the warning that pleasure can be a trigger word. And, you know, even inside this experience, you don't kind of ever really know how you're going to frame something until you're asked.
Yes.
And so, you know, for me, it was a struggle, but I eventually got to thinking about it in a different frame. And I think something I've leaned on in 15 years was I really have tried my best to cut things out of my life that do not bring me joy.
Okay, great. So
And
joy is your access point.
joy is my access point, I think, to pleasure
Yeah.
but I've never associated those two words together. So now it's helping me reframe it a little bit. And I see I share a joy with one of the comments here came in with.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of my work, I developed a methodology called embodied psychosexual method, and essentially the strength or why it works so well is it's based on frameworks, and we as human beings, our belief systems, our frameworks is the operating system, and then everything else falls into alignment. So when you start to use the framework of joy as a way to lean in and look at things, it's really going to change how you see things than when you're looking at it from fear, for example. So it's really powerful. And this is something that every human being, all of us here, it's in our power to make these choices. It's in our power to shift our definitions, and it's definitely in our power to shift even how we frame things or how we the beliefs in which we set up to function in our lives. So I see the word yummy. I love the word yummy. Yummy is such a universal word for so many great things, and it's definitely connected to pleasure, like a yummy hug, a yummy piece of chocolate, a yummy dance experience, like all of those things, a yummy meal. Then we have playfulness, curiosity, being present, self-worth, all beautiful, all connected. Butter, which I loved. I'm like, butter. I love butter. So that brings me a lot of joy, a lot of pleasure, and definitely makes the things that I eat even more joyful for me. A sharing of the joy with you, Dana. Coziness. How beautiful is that?
Love that one.
Coziness is if we're not feeling cozy, it's harder to access joy, openness, curiosity. So coziness, beautiful. Cooking, smell, taste, visual, texture, yummy, yes. And then the word delicious, which is also a really evocative word if you think about, again, a delicious meal or even a delicious massage. You go forget, I don't know if you've ever been to Thailand or a place where they do really intense, like in Bali, foot massages. But they do an hour and a half foot massage. That's delicious. You can't walk much afterwards, but it's really amazing. Feels really good. Coffee and silence are your access points. That's beautiful. So you can see we have a huge variety. What's most important, and we have some laughter coming in. What's most important is not what everyone else is writing. It's not what I am saying. It's actually your lived truth because it's going to be your anchor point, your little rudder on your journey in life. And knowing what is my access point to this state, because it's a state. If you experience joy, or pleasure, yumminess, coziness, deliciousness, you are entering that felt state that actually invokes healthiness, vitality, healing, even innovation and creativity. The giggles, that's awesome. And juicy, I love it. So if you could write your word or words, or maybe you are inspired by someone else's word and you want to add that to your list, if you can put that in your workbook, or if you don't have the workbook printed, just write it out on a piece of paper and use that as a way. And you'll see as we move through, I'm going to share a very simple way for you to start making choices that are going to really bring in a lot more support. So I call it living in alignment made simple. We're going to do that today so that you can feel really, really aligned with yourself, but it's not a complex decision making, which I think is really important. All right. So let me just share a little bit about pleasure. I'm going to do a case for it, and through the lens of something called oxytocin. Is everyone here familiar with oxytocin? You might have heard of it. It's more commonly known as a hormone, a bonding hormone. Often you will hear about it with mother-child scenario, but also, between partners, in intimate connection, but also just normal, friendly intimacy. When you see a friend and you hug and you hang out, that kind of thing will actually induce oxytocin. They found that when women gather together, oxytocin levels will naturally rise. When you receive touch or connection, oxytocin rises. So amazing for bonding and connection. But it also is something else. And this is the piece of it that's so important for all of us here today. It's that it's a neurotransmitter. What that means is it's a way to induce a different felt state, let's say. It's information that your brain uses, goes, oh, okay, this is what we're looking at. So as a neurotransmitter, oxytocin allows your whole nervous system. If you think of your nervous system as the story of your being, your lifelong story, but also your current in this moment story. And when you induce more brain plasticity, that means you can actually rewrite portions of your story or all of your story. And why would you want to do that? Well, for some of us, maybe we had experiences in our past that no longer feel true or resonant or are useful. And so we can literally start to rewrite our story. And oxytocin is a big, big way to do that. So let me share a couple kind of common ways that oxytocin supports. It helps us with relaxation. It helps us achieve or experience a sense of calmness, which is very, very important, because the more calm you can be, especially in your decision making, the more you're going to make responsible choices versus reactive choices. Contentment. Anybody here? I mean, I'm a big one for contentment. I think that's a underrated, awesome aspect of being human. Trust is another big one. Oxytocin supports us to experience trust. And if we're rebuilding trust with our body, we want to have a lot of oxytocin happening. And also, it helps with psychological stability. So, anyone here, if you felt a lot of stress or distress, a lot of different emotional states that are kind of unpleasant, then knowing how to self-induce oxytocin and also to create different activities that support your oxytocin will really help you stabilize yourself a little bit on that mental level. So how to increase this? If you enjoy a particular type of movement and you really get into it, that can help with oxytocin. So if you're really into dancing and you put on some music and you move, great. If it's more hiking is your thing, whatever your movement thing is, you do it intensely, you're going to help release some oxytocin. Singing, especially with others. Isn't that interesting? But singing plays another role, not only for oxytocin. When you sing or you speak with resonance, try it right now if you are able, if you're private enough to do this, but just humming and feel how the vibration in your throat. Feel that humming in the throat. That is part of how you're going to tone your vagal nerve, basically train this part of your body that determines if you're hyper stressed or actually able to relax and connect. So, singing out loud by yourself with others, definitely great for oxytocin. Touch, hug, uh, any kind of caressing, of course, sexual intimacy, social time, again, listening to favorite music, meditating, especially, focusing on the experience of love, kindness, that kind of emotion. And then being around a pet, like say a cat or a dog or a different kind of pet, just being around animals can really bring in oxytocin. So really important to have that mammalian connection. All right, so I hope that you can see from this short conversation that oxytocin is available to you at any moment. It just depends on how you want to access it. A self hug is a great way. Caressing yourself is another really wonderful way. Humming, singing, moving, also lovely ways. And then also connection with others. I'm curious for those who've shown up here today, if you've noticed that in confronting this journey that you're on, sometimes there can be a feeling of aloneness or separateness. Has anyone experienced that? And I'd be curious to hear from Dana if that at all was in your experience.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about the cancer experience, right? And sort of how you can see sort of this. You said oxytocin is a
Oxytocin.
hormone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very curious with the cancer experience because something that was really difficult for me 15 years ago was meeting another young woman with breast cancer.
Hmm.
And, I was diagnosed in an era before the Instagrams and the Facebooks and all of the social connections and everything was really still done in real life. And by not meeting or being introduced to another young person with breast cancer, I really ended up with a world of complete and utter isolation
Mm.
because there was nobody I could speak to. There was nobody I could lean on. There wasn't anybody I could call to make a phone call to say, is this happening to you too? Because when I, met more mature women, they were talking about their grandchildren or their careers or, so many things that I had no association to. So I really faced and dealt with my breast cancer alone
Alone, yeah.
um, for the first few years. And one of our slogans at AnaOno is never alone. And the idea of that, not only, me as a person, but also as a company, we're asking to be interjected into some of the most personal and intimate parts of your life. And being a part of that process, whatever it is, is part of this sort of coming back to yourself, coming back to who you want to be or who you see or, who can inspire you in so many ways. And so much
Yes.
of like that is like what you put on your body every day, right? And and so yeah, hearing this like feeling of how we need to kind of stay true to ourselves by providing ourselves a space or opportunity to do these releases or these activities that endorse, oxycodone is really
Mhm.
sort of interesting to me.
Yes, and it's what the very medicine that we need, A, to heal and to get better and to rewrite the story isn't available when we are isolated and alone. And so this is why I'm bringing it up. A, this community is incredible. The fact that you have each other is it's so important. And even just though we're online, if you can for a moment feel a sense of connection with the other beautiful people here, that will also start to support the oxytocin, especially if you're doing it with a little bit of hugging or kind of caressing your skin. That is an indicator to the body, oh, create and bring more oxytocin online. So really important. And then if you can find support in the real world where there's people that you can be with, even perhaps maybe they are not on the same journey, but that they see you, they hear you, they can connect with you. I think that's very, very important versus the isolation because it's so difficult what you have to face to face it alone, I think is very, very painful. Yeah.
And I think too, so many people got diagnosed during COVID, and I'm seeing from some of the years that
Mm.
people, experienced their diagnosis. And earlier in our chat was within
Oh.
that time frame. And what would you recommend? Because you really were actually isolated,
Hmm.
and seeing that process of kind of pulling yourself out of isolation and putting yourself back out there. What is your advice or strategies there to kind of help people put themselves out there?
Great. Well, number one, which we established in the first session, which I'm going to reiterate here, is becoming your own best person for yourself. Is it's so important not to abandon yourself, not to uh, feel, and a lot of us will feel betrayed by our own bodies. And if we do, reconnecting and reestablishing trust, it's so important. So being able to give ourselves the thing that is most needed, which might be touch or might be a sensibility of just listening to what's really moving through your system because you're going to go through so many different emotions, allowing yourself to emotions, the way that they work in the body, if you can think of them as little chemical reactions. And if you don't allow yourself to really feel what's moving through, think of a very young child, how they move through something and then it's over. That's how we're designed. But when we don't feel it, then we get into this broken record kind of loop and we never complete it. So giving yourself permission to thoroughly feel whatever it is that you're feeling while doing the self-hug, the humming, or the shaking that we did the last time. These are ways that now your system can have flow. And when your system has flow, and now you have connection. So if you're connected to yourself, it's so much easier then to be able to connect with other because when we're connected to ourselves, we can then ask for things that we need. Like someone wrote that they really like
Oh,
silence.
I'm not sure if it's me or her.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, there you go. You're back.
Okay. Did I freeze or something? Where did you miss me?
We froze you right at the shake.
Okay. So I was saying, once you are connected to yourself, now you're better resourced to connect with other and be able to ask for what you really need in that form of connection because it's not always obvious to the other what we need. And there was a lady here who wrote her connection to pleasure is actually through silence. But we need each other. We need to have that oxytocin. So imagine if you could go for a walk, but ask that it's done in silence because
Mm,
a lot of magic can happen in silence where you don't really want to talk about anything. You just want to be
yeah.
with someone, with another. That's so powerful. The times that I've been in nature, like in this African nature, and I take women out on safaris by the way. They're walk-ins. And so we go in the wilderness together. And in those moments, I do 2.5, 3 days of silence. And it's when we are silent that all the magic happens. So I understand that need sometimes for, let's just, there's a lot going on. I just want some stillness, but I also want connection. So if you're connected to yourself, you're better able to ask for that. Like, hey, Dana, would you be willing to come on a hike with me? I just would really love to do it in silence. Are you comfortable with that? And Dana's like, oh yeah, I've been talking too much. This is going to be great. Right?
Sign me
So
up. Take me with you.
exactly. So that's why self-connection is priority. And then when you do start to reach out and connect with other, you're crafting that connection, feeling in your own power to be able to say, hey, I think I only want to hang out for 20 minutes, or I just need whatever it is, and really being able to vocalize that. You won't know what that is if you're not connected to yourself.
Mhm.
So all good, whether you're moving through a really tough part of this experience or you've been through the tough part and now you're on the other side, no matter where you are with who, whatever relation, abandoning ourselves is not an option. It makes things very difficult. So if you're in that state where you're like, I don't even have connection to me, then I would start there. I would start with self-connection. And then once I have that, then I'm like, well, I would like something that would be as good as how I feel by myself or better. That's usually how I weigh things. And then I'll give you a little practice in a moment on how you can make better decisions even in the moment. But I just want to see if that lands for you, Dana, in terms of suggestion.
Yeah, very, very special. I also think we did ask some activities that people would like to do more of. And I think some of these are beautiful. Dancing is great, but a lot of physical walking and getting more action, being in nature's snuggles with my kitty.
Yay.
Love it. Love it. Cat's purrs. So, all things that we can commit to ourselves to make sure we're working through this.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Cat purrs are very healing. So definitely with those cats. All right. So I want to give you a very simple practice. We're going to do it physically with our hands first, but once you understand this, you don't need to use the hands. It's just a really evocative way of understanding the process. So living in alignment with yourself basically ends up being a simple thing. Does this decision, experience, whatever it might be, bring me more aliveness or not? That's it. Is it revitalizing? Is it inspiring or not? And so, for example, here are my hands. This is the hand of like more aliveness, and this is the hand of taking life away. And I'm looking at having, I don't know, some kind of fancy little hot chocolate drink with a bunch of stuff in it. And I can ask myself, is this going to give me more aliveness or less? Okay. And then very quickly, I know I'm like, more or less. For some people, it'll be less, and from some, it's more. If hanging out with this one person or having this conversation or even a choice of clothing, it doesn't matter. Is this going to enliven me, fill me with the feeling of yes or not? And when you start to understand living in alignment in that really simplistic way, it's so supportive. Because say Dana and I are friends, we like to hike in silence, but then one of the days I'm like, does hiking with Dana gonna bring me more aliveness or not? And on that day, I get a no. I'm like, Dana, I'm just getting that I need to be alone a little bit right now. And Dana's like, yeah, but you made a promise to connect because it's important. I'm like, I understand, but right now I'm getting a no. I'm gonna respect that no. And maybe I just need to sleep or have a bath, or there's something else that's actually more important in that moment than being outdoors and moving. So that's why I love this practice, because it's a practice that you get to know yourself intimately in every moment, and who you are in every moment is emerging. You're not the same person as yesterday, a year ago, 10 years ago. When you start understanding that who you are is emerging, it's this alive, beautiful being that's emergent, then you're going to pay attention to yourself very differently than saying to yourself, oh, this is just how it is. It's not just how it is. The brain does like lazy things and likes to go into habitual things, but it's not always the most enlivening choice making. Does that make sense? So some habits we kind of get into are like, I always have my cup of coffee every morning. But there might be a moment in your journey in life where that one cup of coffee suddenly isn't the best choice for your body, and your body lets you know. But it was for, 10 years. It was great. So that's what I mean by that emergent quality. So what I want to do is before we go too far forward with this, go back to the workbook and just make sure that we write down one oxytocin inducing activity that you can do more of regularly. So someone, is cuddling her cat, we could just do that more. Someone else is, connecting with her dog or being in nature and kayaking, great, like do that more. But if you don't mind writing down, what is it that you could do every day a little bit more to create more of that oxytocin to really support your mental health, to support your body to rejuvenate itself, and to support the healing process. I would love for you just to take that little moment, one little thing that you could do. I'm going to be giving you a practice shortly as well to start inducing more oxytocin and the felt state of the word love. If that word doesn't work for you, then profound respect could be another word that we use. All right. So the exercise to determine more enlivenment, less enlivenment will allow you to uh, respond in the moment to your truth, which is going to give you more enlivenment in general. Living by a how it is often very depleting. Okay. So in the workbook, there's another question. And just for a moment, I'd love you to think about just on the top of your head, what are you already doing right now that is supporting you to thrive? What are the things you're already currently doing? If you don't mind just kind of jotting those down for yourself. And if you're extra daring, maybe sharing one of those five things um, that you do regularly to support your thriving. We have touching my body skin throughout the day. Beautiful. Yep. It's self-regulation. It's oxytocin inducing. It's connection. Very beautiful. Okay. So Dana, I'm curious, do you have one little thing that you do regularly that on the top of your head that supports your thriving?
I am a continuous work in progress
Yes.
on this side, and I can honestly and truthfully say that 15 years as a young breast cancer patient, I have sort of beat myself up. I've been mean to my body. I've been very tough on how I recover and how I'm healing. And I feel like maybe it came with a little bit of age maturity as well. So after I turned 40, I recognized that I wasn't allowed to be this rebellious young survivor who was sort of living for every day because I never knew what day was going to be next.
Right.
And I gave myself permission to slow down and turn some of the anger into respect. And as my work in progress, I am not good at things like this at all. I do not give myself good self-love and self-care. I'm very, very tough on myself. But I now am setting boundaries for really the
Yes.
first time in my life. So that
High five.
high five. So I'm trying to
Boundaries
set
are
boundaries. That is
sex.
my,
Yes, boundaries are so important,
yeah.
so crucial, and they do support thriving. If you don't have boundaries, it's really hard to maintain your own energy levels, your own mental health, because you're just kind of at the whim of everything around you. So, congratulations on discovering that. It's not an easy thing. We don't teach young women the importance of boundaries hardly ever. So, Very important to have that. So we have a few things here. Preparing healthy food, better eating choices, making the bed, clean sheets. I definitely I resonate with that. I love that.
Love that.
Clean sheets,
Mhm.
shopping, also setting boundaries and sticking to them,
Yes.
feeling like I need to help everyone every day all the time. Yes, yes, very good. Wearing makeup again, long countryside walks on the weekends, all of these things that you just do naturally. See if you can start to sense into what else could I do just easily every day? Like, Dana, do you have a favorite beverage that you enjoy every day? Is there like something that you like that way?
Well, I would say a glass of wine.
Okay.
But I'm trying to be better with that. But I do love a sparkling water with some lime in it.
Okay. Well, whatever the beverage is, your job would be then, like your curiosity is how much enjoyment can you get out of it? Because that will support your
Mhm.
thriving. So instead of just unconsciously taking in whatever it is, actually smell it, feel the texture, and then see if you can invoke that sense of joy. And like, I really love this sparkling water is like dancing in my mouth. It feels so good. I love the flavor. All of those things. Or it could be, as you said, the wine, or it could be coffee, like whatever it is that the person really enjoys. I like making myself a daily hot chocolate where I actually melt the chocolate down.
Mm.
And so it's
Rich.
very decadent, but it just like it's so joyous. My body loves it. And there's some good side effects to dark chocolate anyways. So, but finding the joy, like if I consumed that, but I ignored it, I didn't even take in the taste or the flavor or the texture, I'm not living. So to thrive, we need to pay attention to the aliveness that's available right here, right now. And that's going to be available through your sensuality, through your senses. Sensuality is just basically how we make sense of reality. That's it. It doesn't have to be scary. It's not solely associated with sexuality.
Mhm.
But being sensual, a sensual person means you're alive. It means you're seeing what's around, you're taking in information through all of the senses and then responding. And that is an evocative, life-giving activity. When you can, right now it's springtime in the Northern Hemisphere, and when you can go outside and see the spring flowers and smell them, wow, like actually pay attention. Um, I'm a real weirdo. I go on sniffing walks. And I will literally, if I'm in a city like Vancouver, my favorite activity in Vancouver would be a full afternoon of sniffing because there's so many fragrant flowers of all kinds. And I would start to gather a small crowd of people. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sniffing." And they would sniff with me. And then they would follow me to the next thing to sniff. And we'd just have this very enjoyable sniffing thing that would happen. And it was just so pleasurable, whether I did it alone or a little crowd would follow me along. It brings aliveness. This is available to us. So, ladies, thriving is not something special. You don't have to do something extraordinary that requires a lot of effort. It's more about paying attention to what's available right in front of us. Does that make sense?
And it's the permission to slow down to a certain extent. I mean, I think that's really, I guess there's a reason for that saying, right? Stop and smell the roses. Because it is part of that space of slowing down. And I feel like, no matter how complicated life is, and life feels more complicated today than it's ever felt, but really giving yourself that permission to just enjoy and find pleasure and almost small things. I think about what you're saying about my morning coffee. I love my morning coffee, but I speed through my morning coffee every morning. Why do I not just slow down, drink the coffee, smell the coffee, read a book, do something that actually allows me to give that ritual
Yeah,
a moment?
exactly. And so, what are we doing when we do that? It's a very rebellious act. Any person who chooses to really lean into how alive this moment can be is an amazing rebellious being. Running from one thing to another where we're completely numbing out and not feeling anything, whether emotionally or physically, isn't living. So for those of us where living is a really important choice, I know because I had to face that really intensely in my life, and I think most people here on this call as well. We're the lucky ones because when we have to face choosing to live, it makes us live more.
Mhm.
When you take this life for granted, you don't live it very well. So right now, the opportunity that you have, not only in like calming things down and getting that oxytocin and just really making choices that feel more enlivening. And maybe 80% of your choices can be the enlivening ones. And of course, there's going to be some that you need to do that you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, but you must do it. Fine. But maybe let's move that into like the 20% category, but also paying attention because that's what thriving is. So all of you, these beautiful activities that you're doing, whether you're cooking or hiking or being with a dog or a friend, even if it's just a moment where you take a deep breath and you take it all in. So Dana, you're busy. So maybe you don't sit for the whole cup of coffee, but the first few moments with it, everything stops for a second. And you're like, this is just me and my coffee right now. Just me. It's so amazing. And then you can go into it, whatever the thing that you need to be doing, but you've given yourself a different orientation, an orientation of thriving, of connection, of I am here and I am going to enjoy the simple little things because that's actually what matters. So the practice I want to share with you, it's very simple. We're going to practice opening the front part of the body. This you can use when you're very stressed, and you can also use when you feel really good. So it's a practice you can do literally anytime. And why this practice is so important is when the front part of the body starts to contract and close, it's usually because we have a lot of stress, fear, or even anger. Anger, we kind of get crushed in like this, rage, even sadness, the chest collapses in sadness. So all of this kind of curling in onto ourselves closes off this front body. But the front part of the body is in the nervous system understanding. When that opens, it starts to allow us to feel more relaxed, calm, connected, and capable. So that's a state that we can self-induce regularly by manually, meaning we're going to move our bodies into opening this front line. So I want you to take your fingertips for a second if you're able, and meaning like you're not in a public place and it's weird or whatever. Take your fingertips from your chin and go down your neck and then straight down the midline all the way down past your belly button just to where your pubic bone is. So that whole front line of your body. This is what we're going to open now. We're just going to do that really easily with inhale, exhale. So when you inhale, I want you to stretch your neck and look up and bring your chin up with you and slightly arch your back and let your belly poof out as you breathe in. And then when you exhale, just come back to kind of a more neutral spine, neutral body. Inhale, really stretch open that front body. And exhale. We're going to exaggerate this for a second. You're going to lift your arms up like this, and you're going to stretch open the whole area of the chest and upper torso, that whole rib cage, upper belly area. And then when you exhale, I want you to bring your elbows in and bring them together and curl forward. Inhale, so we're exaggerating opening. Take a big breath, opening, opening, opening. And exhale, relaxing, curling forward. Let's do one more, just of the exaggerated one. Really open, open, open. And exhale, curling forward. And now just sitting kind of in that neutral space. But when you breathe in, I want you to imagine in the front line of your body that word that connects you with life, whether it's joy or coziness or ease. And as you breathe in, allowing the whole front of your body to gently stretch. And when you exhale, just relaxing that front part of the body. Do a few more on your own and notice that actually your body wants to breathe like this. It's a very natural way to breathe. And as you come to a neutral place, just notice now how that feels in your body. Notice any thoughts, emotions, or sensations. And then you're going to heat up your hands. And we're going to do a little advanced version of this. First, just kind of come to right underneath your collarbone, putting the hands there. And we're going to massage that whole upper rib area just very gently. If that feels challenging for some of you, you can hold the hands away from the body and still make those circular movements without touching the body. Just for a moment to bring some warmth, some heat, some connection. And then settle your hands so they're resting on your body. And just notice how it feels to connect hands on your own body, using your breath to ease and open any tension that you might be holding in your chest and upper back. And imagine for a moment just a sense of warmth spreading through all of your chest, including the area around your physical heart. And imagine as you breathe, there's more space inside the body, more space for your heart, more space for your lungs. And see if you can sense into the sensation of respect. Smiling into your own body, especially the area around your heart. See if you can connect as you breathe with that sense of deep respect. And if it's comfortable, bring your second hand down towards your belly. You can stop at your solar plexus, your navel, or all the way down to the lowest part of the belly, wherever it's most comfortable. And as you're breathing, feeling that heat, that sensation of respect, almost like a warm waterfall flowing down into the lower part of your torso. And the very last part of this exercise, we're going to sigh. So you're going to inhale, imagine stretching that front part of your body just slightly. And as you relax, sighing out, just inhale, really opening, feel that heat and connection. Sighing out. One last time. And just pause, breathing naturally, noticing Any sensations, thoughts, or feelings? And if some of you notice there might be extra saliva in your mouth, that is a good sign. So you can just swallow that down and rub your hands. Let's brush your face. And again, down your arms, push down your chest. And if you can, all the way brush down your legs and your lower back. Beautiful. The last part in the workbook is just a question of how are you feeling after really the front body or self-attunement practice. Dana, I'd be curious, any feedback there? And for the ladies, just noticing and also making a note for yourself.
These are always really helpful, just like moments, especially in my life, but it's also moments where I learn and respect sort of the amount of tension I carry in my chest,
Yes.
mostly because, I had a bilateral mastectomy and I feel like my stress and my tension is always focused just right here.
Mm.
And it will affect my breathing, and I will breathe shallow, and I will, sort of like just, I feel like I'm like this. And in
Yes.
moments, not just breathing, but I think touching and being a part and making myself notice, you've got to calm down a little bit, is releasing some of that physical stress that just sits there.
Exactly. And the other thing you're doing when you allow warmth and space is you actually allow this area to have better circulation,
Mm.
which is going to help the healing process in all different ways, whether it's an emotional component of the healing or a physical component of the healing or even a mental component of the healing. Being able to feel like you can breathe and have space in any area of the body, but especially as you were saying for breast cancer, this area can feel like you're really alienated from it, or you're angry with it, or you feel betrayed by this part of your body, or you're just even cowering in for protection because any kind of surgery is invasive and it's like, So retraining the body to feel safe, to release and understand like right now it's okay, I'm safe, I don't need to tighten, I don't need to carry this, is a re-entrainment that only you can gift to yourself. And that's just like a little daily practice of self-care, honestly, is what it is. And the touch, when you do it, when you do the practice with including touch, you're getting more of that oxytocin. So if you remember, oxytocin will help you rewrite all the stories. So whatever stories have been there, you can rewrite them, become a new person. You can literally become a new person every day and recreate yourself every day. And that is what living is about. It's like, what's alive? What's emerging today? Not just what has happened and that I need to brace against, but also what wants to come forward um, through my body, through myself. So thank you, Dana, for that share. It's very vulnerable, very precious. Um, these practices, when I work with women directly, like in my groups or one-on-one, it's sometimes they're really hard because it's like reconnection can feel very vulnerable,
Mhm.
but it's so worth it because the beauty that comes forward when you rebuild that connection and rebuild that trust and rebuild that love and that respect, no one can give you that, and no one can, like, it can't be taken once you experience it. And it does elevate the quality of your living. So I highly, highly recommend just even titrating the experience. If all you can do for now is just stretching a little bit that front body, that is huge. It's huge because it's going to really help your vagal nerve understand that you want to to relax, you want to heal, you want to repair, you want to thrive. So thank
Amazing.
you. Thank you so much for this opportunity and this day, and being here with you is just feels very much like a privilege. So very honored.
Well, we back at you before we wrap this up and close down the recording for our Q&A. Can you just give us a quick recap of what we experienced today for those that joined late and how they can take this into their tomorrow? And then we'll open up the floor for questions.
Absolutely. So I made a case for pleasure today, and pleasure meaning not just sexual pleasure, but any sensation of joy, of ease, of openness, of curiosity, of coziness, to lean into that direction. And the reason for that is the more we can do that, the more we support the body to enter a felt state that is not only incredible for healing, but also incredible for thriving and really living the life we want to live. The self touch that we did, we reviewed the self hug from the last time. We also did some caressing, and then we opened the front body. All of that supports that oxytocin to increase the levels in the body, which is really, really important for us to be able to rewrite and to also heal. And then the ability to be at choice with everything. Is this thing I'm about to do, whether it's a conversation, an activity, or ingesting something, is this going to enliven me more or less? And starting to really live as much as we can in alignment with those things that enliven us more and more. So that's a very quick recap of today, along with just generating that sense of deep respect and attunement to ourselves.